Are Planeswalkers dog water, or are they secret gems of the Commander format? That is exactly what we're going to talk about today. More specifically, if you should be running them in your Commander decks. This is the Turn Zero podcast, hosted by Snapkeep. My name is Al, and as always, I am joined by
Jake,
Alex,
and Ryan.
Yeah, so we're going to jump into whether or not you should be running Planeswalkers in Commander. So the first thing we have to establish is whether we think, as individuals, if they're viable or not.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that's always been like the big, I guess, sticking point of the community is that Planeswalkers are bad because they have to survive 3 turns to, you know, come back to your turn to activate. But I believe that Planeswalkers are like just a good synergy piece for your deck, and I think that you have a hard-pressed time to not find one that works with your deck. You know what I mean? There's always some sort of Planeswalker. It may be a little bit too expensive, a little bit too much on the flavor side, but you can see it with any one of its loyalty abilities fitting into your deck. Yeah.
I think Planeswalker as a card type has a advantage of having inherent variety with its abilities. Like that's kind of the point of the card is there's like usually 3 abilities, sometimes a static. And there's some variance in there, like usually one's like a minor but good effect that gives it a plus. There's a, you know, a minus ability that's a little bit better of an effect, but it's killing your Planeswalker. Yeah. And then there's its ultimate is like the normal templating. Ever since Commander's been more popular, though, we've seen a lot of variances on that, I think, to make it more playable in Commander.
Splashier ultimates, ultimates that affect each player, not just one opponent. So,
but I actually think that helps the Planeswalker card type in Commander in general. When, you know, I was first getting started in the format, the Planeswalkers that had static effects were just the Warwalkers, and they were mid at best. But now we're seeing more static abilities, which I think helps Planeswalkers make it into the 99 for sure. Yeah. If it does something the turn it comes down and then has a static effect that the rest of your deck might be able to interact with, like, that's just a good card at that point.
which is interesting because we're also starting to see that with more enchantments. Is that, like, I kind of equate the two to the same thing because they're not really something you can swing with, but they're still a permanent type, right? And we're seeing a lot with enchantments where they have an ETB and then they have this kind of continuous effect, and getting Planeswalkers that do that is good. Because I've really thought of Planeswalkers, I generally don't think about them for their ultimate, because in a game like Commander, there are 3 people that can swing at it. I care about what I can do with it in the turn that I play it. Be it if its plus is good enough to start to keep it around, like that's good. But if its minus is, hey, it's 3 mana and I get to remove one thing with its minus ability and then maybe it dies, like that's kind of that's kind of worth it already. And if it fits the theme, or I get lucky playing it after a board wipe or something, then it can stick around longer. Yeah, that's just a bonus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think the real tough. So I don't run many Planeswalkers, and I think the biggest reason for that is because if you are playing it for just one effect, then it's usually overcosted.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
So like when I do it, I'm like, okay, I'm probably not going to ultimate. I can't evaluate it as a deck building tool as if I'm going to ultimate or like get this off multiple times. So if it's going to come down and do one thing, then it has to be like extremely splashy. I'm thinking the Eternal Wanderer.
Yeah, Eternal Wanderer, New Elspeth, any of the Ugins, Board Wipe Elspeth.
Yeah, and those like have to be kind of like a huge board impact. But the problem with those ones is they're all 6 mana, 7 mana,
they
5
get pretty
mana.
expensive.
They're the top end of your curve.
They're a turn.
Yeah. Which, rightly so, right? Like, that's the whole point, is that they're doing, like, a whole lot of
They come down, wipe the board, and they stick around, so...
Yeah. Like, the Stormslayer Elspeth, I'm not super high on because, like, even though, like, Anointed Procession is great, on a Planeswalker that also does more, like, I don't think it's going to stay around because my opponents can swing, and they should be swinging at them if they can.
But at least I got value on it, coming down, gave all my things flying, or made 2 bodies off of it, so...
Yeah, you could get a little bit, but, like, when you can throw Anointed Procession in there, it's an enchantment type, which can't be removed quite as easily. Like, everybody's running creatures, but your mono black deck, you got 2 ways to get rid of that enchantment.
True. And the second way is really new.
Yes.
And we've seen there was a peak in like them including Planeswalker and removal that was probably like 3 or 4 years ago.
When
where
War of the Spark was in standard.
Well, where they were including a lot of like destroy target artifact, enchantment, or planeswalker, and deal damage to target player, creature, or planeswalker, And now it feels like since battles and all these other things have kind of come out, and they haven't really released as many planeswalkers, they've kind of left that part out, and planeswalkers become slightly more protected again, just in the fact that a lot of removal that is played is no longer that planeswalker specific removal.
Yeah. But if the whole board's like, hey, he's about to ultimate, then you got you can't block that many creatures.
Yeah,
like,
right,
even if
exactly.
you are a creature heavy deck. Which brings me to my other point. Like the decks that can defend them in like a normal style, aside from Super Friends decks, are the decks that are not going to want a high top end planeswalker because they want their top end.
It's a non-creature in your creature deck.
Yeah, which makes it tough.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, obviously Super Friends is really great because you load up a whole bunch of planeswalkers and token doubling effects because you get that wide board to protect
People
them.
will poo-poo planeswalkers until like the cows come home, but as soon as they sit against Bant Super Friends, and it goes to turn 45, and they've ultimated Karn 3 times, then they're like, I will kill every planeswalker that I ever encounter in my life.
Rightly
and
so.
Like, it's just like the give and take of like, with like 1 or 2, you're not getting that. But if you're building your deck around planeswalkers, like in a Super Friends deck, you get the strength and numbers of having them. Yeah. Because you've even said, if I've played, Karth the Lion, and I have 4 planeswalkers out, and you're like, all right, which one's about to ultimate? But then, that one's close to ultimating, So there's like, planeswalkers are also a fog.
Yeah.
So
Sort of, yeah.
Your other decks that can really capitalize on planeswalkers is, ironically, the ones with the ultimates, and that's with your doubly season type decks, your Deep Glow Skates, that can immediately ultimate it off without any warning to the board. So
I run like Vraska's Betrayal Sting in 2 different decks for that effect of like, hey, if I have a counters doubler and I drop her, like I just win the game.
Yeah.
I'd almost consider that more of a combo than like a planeswalker for value. Like I wouldn't include the Vraska for the same reason that I would include like any other black walker to get like an extra piece of card draw or an extra piece of removal. Like I don't know how important the rest of Vraska's text is there. At least for me.
In that case, it is just an end the game. But I think Betrayal Sting is still a good planeswalker.
Solid planeswalker.
Yeah.
Another place that I haven't really tested it too much or really seen it, but I think planeswalkers would also be pretty good in like group hug style effects.
Yeah, I agree.
Where you're constantly building up type effects where like you can't be swung into. You just have to be careful because some of them don't actually say like can't attack your planeswalkers.
Right.
Yeah. You have to be careful about those, but that's another good way to.
I know. There was a stretch where I ran Angrath in Carter, an older iteration of Carter. But that was partially more just a flavor thing because Angrath is my favorite planeswalker. And I had the cute little chibi art of him. And like, you gotta. He's adorable.
Yeah.
But I think even then, after he was out, he wouldn't last very long. He, not necessarily a good planeswalker either. So even if he was out, it wasn't super impactful.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I think stack decks where you can accrue multiple activations through like rule of law effects or just having your blockers up. Any deck that cares about vigilance probably could also slot in a planeswalker. I feel pretty good about it.
Crawl Space and Tangle Wire and Winter Orb and things like that.
Yeah, that's where I would start to look for planeswalkers, but I don't know. They're hard to include. Like, are they dog water? Who knows?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Okay, so I think, we talked a little bit about why they're good. They have their variety. They have big splashy effects. We talked a little bit about what makes them tough, which is like being able to be swung into by your 3 other
power
opponents.
Numbers and
So, in what ways do you think that a planeswalker might make your list, and how many are you running in your average commander deck? So not Super Friends, not like your super like spellslinger-y, like focus decks, but like your average commander deck.
So I did the math of my 37 paper decks, I run 33 Planeswalkers. So just under 27 unique Planeswalkers. So there is a little bit of overlap in which ones I run. I think 1 per deck is about where I would expect my lists to be.
I agree. I start with 2, cut down to 1.
But what's interesting about it is I do have a lot of decks that run 0. Like a lot of my list is carried by, okay, this deck has 3. Or I have a deck that has 4 different Vraskas in it. And so, like, the list, some points gets carried, but, like, I have 37 paper decks. Like, there's definitely a discrepancy to be had amongst them.
That's a whole lot of cardboard.
Yeah.
It sure is.
That's a whole lot of data.
3,700 pieces of cardboard, at least.
Yeah.
I think for me, to make a deck, I have to care about either the +1 or the +2 a whole lot.
Or minus, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Or the minus a whole lot. Like, I also don't consider the ultimate in my evaluation. If it happens, great.
I feel like
if it doesn't,
I
whatever.
feel like that's just good deck building.
Yeah, but I feel like any Planeswalker where it's like, okay, this +1 is relevant to my overall strategy, it makes the 99 at least the first draft.
Or the static.
Yeah, or the static is really good. Like in Zevlor, I run that Ral that cares about copying spells.
Yeah,
like,
Ral Storm Conduit.
That makes it.
I've got him in a couple different ones just as a value or as a combo piece. And I think going with the, like, not caring about the ultimate, I think of it as, like, the ultimate is win more.
It's icing on the cake.
Yeah,
It's very win more.
Lately, I've been trying to build my decks with less win more because realistically, I'm only going to be winning a quarter of my games.
Yep.
So I can only
the
be
math that matters.
I can only be win moring a quarter of my games.
Exactly, yeah.
And so, like, do I really need that? And even the quarter of the games I'm winning, maybe there is no opportunity to win more. Like, I just happenstance upon, oh, sick, everybody killed each other, and
basically,
here I am.
Yeah. I mean, I usually start with, like, 1 or 2, the ones I own. And then I look through, like, I have a mill deck run by the Mind Skinner, and I have Jace Balerion, the mill ultimate,
Classic.
and, like, everyone draws a card, and then I have Jace Perfected Mind, which is 3 or 4 mana, everyone mills 15. So, just those, like, high synergy pieces that are even for, like, 3 mana for mill 15, that's a good rate even in, like, a mill deck.
Yeah, it is.
So just to have that, like, a little piece of reach, and then if it sticks around, oh boy, goody, it stuck around, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Or run it back.
I was just expecting, like, Jace Balerion, like, original Jace, Lorwyn 5 Jace, just to be, like, 4 mana, everyone draws a card, and maybe I, like, persuade the table not to hit it the plus again on my turn. You know what I mean?
Incur a little bit of favor, like,
Yeah.
hey, dude, if you don't swing at it, I can help you draw more
Yeah,
cards.
we're party Jason. We're just like drawing
drawing
drawing a little bit of cards. But then I drop a Liliana Dreadhorde General and, like, Yawgmoth or Rats,
Like,
and then
whoa, wait a
I'm the
minute.
bad guy.
Well, this says sack 2 creatures on it. You are the bad
It
guy.
does say sack 2 creatures, and then I draw 2 cards because of her static ability. But yeah, so I usually sometimes I'll bump it up to 3 if it's like a counters deck. I had bad counters, and then there's an Elspeth that gives something a counter. There's a Vivian that gives a keyword counter. There's an Ajani that puts a counter on your team. So just, like, I guess, like, synergy maxing all of my little Planeswalkers, because Planeswalker is my favorite card type. So just to, like, I try to include at least 1 in every deck. If not, it's something I either didn't own one that I could put into a deck, or it just nothing inspired me to put it in.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for me, it's a little tough to get the Planeswalker in the 99. I think on average,
Gotta say draw a card.
if it says draw a card, come on now. On average, it has to work pretty hard because I have the most Planeswalkers I run in a deck is 2. The
I'd
least
say
is
that's
0.
normal. Yeah, also normal.
Which is very common.
Yeah.
I think probably 10 of my 15 decks, if I had to guess, is running 0 Planeswalkers. And I think for a lot of the reasons we said, that is the case. But also I like my engine cards. I like the cards that, like, kind of churn. And Planeswalkers, even though they have that variety, they have those +1s, like we mentioned before, they have that overcosted tax for having that variety.
It's hard to feel good about churning with a Planeswalker.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, this is a 4 mana Planeswalker. I have to wait, and, like, I could be playing, a different card.
Unless it's Oko and you're blowing someone out with that.
That feels
Unless you're Elkin at Commander or something,
And I think it's also kind of gotten into that space where I think we've all expressed a slight annoyance with the only once a turn effects.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And Planeswalkers have been doing that since
Forever.
before we kind of realized it.
Because
that
makes
is
them
the
fair.
Planeswalker
I
thing.
will say.
Yeah.
Where now they're doing it on other cards, and we're like, wow, this only happening once a turn. Like, it'd be so good if I could do it more than once.
That's
Yeah.
why those
And
effects are so few
Planeswalkers
and far
sit at
between.
that spot where, like, it only happens once a turn. Like,
And-
on the bright side, you can do it every turn you have.
And honestly, the minuses in a commander game might actually have the hidden text once a game.
Yeah, very much so.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another thing that's kind of worth mentioning is like a lot of the ways that you get around those things, like blinking, you don't want to do with your planeswalkers because you want to tick them up.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
But sometimes that's the big brain play.
Yeah.
It truly is. Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah.
Resetting the walker on your turn to get another activation. That can,
Especially
that
like,
can get
if
kind of
someone
crazy.
swung at it already, or to get a second activation in the same turn.
yeah.
Be a little
That
extra
feels really
bonus.
good.
Or blink it with a doubling season in play. I mean, you can be like Mega Mind with your Planeswalker play. It's just that whether or not you feel the need to include it in your deck, which I feel that is like slowly getting more. You kind of, I wouldn't say you get laughed at for including a Planeswalker, but you definitely get like, oh, a casual Planeswalker player at the table.
Actually, yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say is another place that Planeswalkers creep into my deck building is when I'm going for a lower power level in a deck. You know, Anointed Procession might be a little bit too much for my casual white deck, but the new Elspeth, maybe not. I mean, the new Elspeth is probably cracked in half for any
they're
white
the
deck,
same
but-
price.
Yeah, they're about the same price, but finding effects on Planeswalkers that replace more expensive cards is a way to power down your decks as well.
True.
And I have done that.
Or just budget replacements.
Yeah, or just budget
It's
replacement.
also- there's like 300 Commander legal Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
Like, as Ryan was saying earlier, there's probably a Planeswalker for every deck.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially with the Warwalkers, I'm sure that you can find something for a
Yeah,
deck.
there's a Planeswalker specifically for your mono green wolves deck in Arlen Cord. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a werewolf Planeswalker. You
for
know?
sure.
Yeah. And the last thing I kind of consider when it comes to including a planeswalker is how does it feel when you're losing, when it's right after a board wipe? Like,
Yeah.
you cannot just like run out a planeswalker into a board where someone else is dominant. Kind of.
Yeah.
It's just like they're just going to swing at it because why wouldn't they? And then you're going
Right.
to feel, you know, like, ah, shoot, I could have been playing a card where
Yeah,
they couldn't swing
you
it.
spent your 6 mana to make like 2 soldiers. Like that was your whole thing.
Like, bro, I'd have rather played
Yikes.
Hive Mind.
Yikes.
So that's another thing to consider. Like I in a lot of my deck building, I'm like, what is this doing for me when I'm losing the game? Because theoretically, like you said, should be 75% of the time
Right.
that I'm not in the dominant position. However, like we've kind of talked about, there's a great reason to run them, is they're freaking cool.
They are really
Yeah,
cool.
I think Planeswalkers are my favorite card type, and just to like the Vorthos of them like being like, oh, I'll help you, and like they come
Yeah.
down from the multiverse, and
Slinging
just from a
those
flavor perspective, I
I'm
love
playing
a lot.
one of the MTG storybook characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got Garrick helping me out. He's drawing me cards, immediately dying,
Yeah.
but drawing me cards.
Liliana's
like,
killing me and my opponent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sick.
Yeah, it's for that reason I really love. I do like seeing planeswalkers hit the board, even if I hate reading them.
Yeah.
It's like, shoot, what does that
Yeah,
guy do?
yeah.
And that's a hidden benefit to planeswalkers, is that if your opponents don't read them, they're like, he's just, oh, what are you doing? You're
doing
drawing a
stuff.
card,
That's
discard a
it.
card.
That's
Like,
the
whatever.
secret tech. You play the Japanese War of the Spartans cards. You play Japanese anime Narset Parter of the Veils. No one knows what that card does until you tell them what it does, and you get them.
Amen, brother.
But like, don't do that though. Don't make sure everyone knows what the card does.
This Planeswalker pays off my student loans, and you owe me a burger
Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
with fries.
I think funny enough, playing planeswalkers requires you to be a little bit of a more strategic and better Magic player. Like you would think, oh, the spikes are gonna avoid the planeswalkers, but you got to be more strategic. Like when you deploy them, like which planeswalkers you use, not to put too many in your deck. Like it is something that I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
us have learned the hard way over time.
For Vraska's bad call. Straight up, deck blows.
Except in a Super Friends deck. Them 4 Vraskas is insane.
Yeah.
But also, flavor goes hard.
It does, yeah.
But then, like you said, like to know when to run out the Planeswalker, even if it's just for value, I think is a good stepping stone in getting there with all the card types, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I'm sure there are some Zoomer Commander players that when I play a Planeswalker, they don't know that they can Lightning Bolt it. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
You know, things like that they don't know that they can attack the Planeswalker and me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think something that's quite interesting to think about is they kind of, in a weird way, end up being a little bit of life gain. Because you're diverting the damage
Back to
away
the
from...
fog.
It's a fog.
Yeah, it's sort of a fog.
It's sort of a
It
fog.
can buy you an extra turn, especially we play a very combat-heavy version of Magic. Yeah. It can buy you a turn, maybe 2 turns.
Yeah, we're a little casual with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's interesting. So, do you guys, in your 99s, like running Planeswalkers?
Oh, hell yeah.
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 I love
Yeses.
resolving them, and
they're
you know,
cool.
yeah, they're just cool cards.
Having the mini game of, especially when I play Super Friends, having 4 Planeswalkers out and being like, ooh, what will I have today, Garcon? What will Vraska bring me on this day?
And I like having the option already on the board after you play one is like, oh, like, am I going to plus? Am I going to minus? Like, what?
Yeah, they can.
You have a little bit of flexibility already on the board, and it kind of gives you options looking at your next move.
Yeah, Planeswalkers also really bad rattlesnakes if you need them to be. They are sorcery speed,
Yeah.
so they're not great at it, but they
yeah.
can be rattlesnakes if you need them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't love running Planeswalkers unless it's a character I'm very passionate about. Then I get a little excited. Elspeth's pretty cool. The other reason would be that it does something unique for Planeswalkers, like the Kaito, that like ninjutsu,
or the Aether Spark that's also an equipment.
Yeah, I eat that stuff up because it's like, okay, we're using this card typing for something that's a little bit more exciting, a little bit more protective.
Like
Wait, what's
grit.
that? Al liking a gimmick?
Wait a minute.
Sir.
Hold
Yes,
on.
sir.
Bro, get new material.
Like Grist being searchable with creature tutors
that's
and
so
stuff
cool.
like
Grist
that.
being
can
a
unearth.
creature on
Yeah.
the stack.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff. Yeah, I love seeing that kind of stuff because it makes your opponents be like, "Oh, wait, Planeswalkers are kind of cool."
Way more likely to make it into the 99 if it's funky. True.
Yeah.
Funky and goofy. So what about outside of the 99? We got Planeswalkers that can be commanders.
Commander.
How many Planeswalker commanders do y'all got? Because I got 0.
As a group, we have none.
Yeah. So how do we feel about that? That's something they've been doing less.
Yeah,
but
there's
does
not too many of
exist.
them.
Yeah.
So I've thought about building Doretti as a commander in the past.
Sure.
I have a love-hate relationship with building a mono red deck. I have probably built 6 of them, and currently have 0 in paper. So like
Oh my god.
that
wow.
exists.
Even I have a mono red deck.
like every time I build one, it just doesn't spark
It doesn't
joy.
make it. Yeah.
And so I take it apart, and then I start to build another one. So I think like Doretti was the one where I was almost set on doing it, and then they keep coming out with more red artifact decks.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, maybe I won't build Doretti. But I think I also thought about it with Mardu Dihada. And- but-
Legendaries?
Yeah, and she was a pre-con, so hers would be a little bit easier to do because there's already some structure to that.
Yeah.
But I haven't really thought about it much outside of that.
I will say with the Planeswalkers that can be your commander, we talked about how Planeswalkers are very flexible. They all of them find a home. Those Planeswalkers are leading a very, very hyper-specific deck.
Yeah, I was going to say most of the walkers that can be your commander want you to do something very specific.
Like Frailes is an elf ball commander.
Yeah.
Estrid is an enchantress, and it's not like, oh, I can like kind of be funky with it. No, it's like those are like an elf and enchantress commander.
Yep.
It's like Teferi is the most nebulous one, but he is like still just cares about drawing cards, and Tavish Zat only cares
Al,
about
you've
being
got it
aristocrats.
pulled up. How many are there?
There's 20 total.
20
20
total.
20 total that
Yeah.
can be your commander.
Okay.
What do you mean, Ryan? You're not running a Spellslinger Lord Windgrace deck?
No, because Lord Windgrace has 3 different abilities that only care about land.
And I'm not running Enchantress, Minsk, and Boo, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess Minsk and Boo
No, they just care about
flings.
Boo.
Yeah.
He just cares
They
about,
just care about Boo.
hamsters.
It don't mean
Yeah.
a thing if it ain't got that flame.
Hamsters.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting.
Oh, it
because,
definitely
like,
is.
Like, if I'm having a Planeswalker commander, I would want them to be hyper-focused as a toolbox.
Yeah.
But I think it suffers from all the same reasons that we've been talking about, which is that your opponents can swing at them.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you don't have your commander, which your 99 is built around.
Yeah.
I don't have a Planeswalker commander deck, but if I were to make one, it would probably be one where like the Planeswalker doesn't need to be on the battlefield to do its thing. It's like a pile of its own, like a Lord Windgrace deck. Sure, it's a lands deck, but it doesn't need Lord
Where
Windgrace to.
It's one of those
effectively-
decks
Yeah.
that could exist with any commander in those colors.
So, yeah, kind of like the Jessica and Kamal deck I had forever ago, where it was just really a Gruul pile.
Yeah.
And Jessica just made it better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah.
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 I will say that kind of like tugs at me the wrong way because if I'm playing like a deck, I want to like have the commander get in there, mix it up. So I guess,
Yeah.
well,
we
I
talked about that with
yeah.
philosophies. You want your
Yeah.
commander to helm the ship. You
Yeah.
build around the commander.
I wanted to get in there, be on the battlefield, and accrue me like value and like the Vorthos of it. And I tried to build like Tasha the Witch Queen, like steal your stuff, and then I was like, why isn't this just a Xanathar deck, you know?
Yeah.
You know, sort of thing. So I included Tasha the Witch Queen in the Xanathar list, and I think that's better fits me as a deck builder and player, what I like more.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see if you like Planeswalkers a lot more than I do, which will be hard, then then I can see you swapping the two. So.
Bro is hard about his planeswalkers.
True, dude.
Yeah, I think Tasha is the perfect like example of everything we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's 5 mana, so it's very costly for the effect that she does. 2, it's an engine piece. It creates demons, so you want her to be sticking around. Also, you get the page counters or whatever they're called. Yeah, the page counters.
takes time.
And then, she has to stay on the battlefield to accrue the value. So I think she's a good example of like, this is a really cool character that I want to put in a deck because she's cool. But it's very hard to get her going.
And her card is cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
the
very
card is
cool.
great. I love the
protection
card.
for her. Like propaganda still lets you swing at planeswalkers, right?
That's correct.
I believe
So
so.
even like one of her ideal protection pieces in propaganda would still let her get hit. It just kind of leaves her out in the open. Like you can't hit me, but like the thing that I'm trying to protect by you not hitting me is still wide open.
Yeah.
I would almost rather you hit me.
However, if you play a propaganda, a lot of people think you can't swing at planeswalkers.
Yeah.
So
Just
if
don't
you don't
tell
have to
them.
remind them.
Yeah.
Don't be like shady about it and like
No, you can't
specifically
do that. Yeah, don't be a bad actor.
Let them
Don't
look at
do
the
that.
propaganda.
Don't be a bad
Let
actor.
them think about it.
Make their own conclusion.
Reading the card explains the card.
Yep.
So get it in Japanese.
They did not even. Planeswalkers were not even a whisper when propaganda was printed.
Okay, well, I think that pretty well encompasses our thoughts on planeswalkers as a group. So I think a cute little way to end this is to talk about our favorite planeswalkers. So, Jake, who is your favorite planeswalker?
My favorite planeswalker is Kaya, specifically the Kaya that we saw in Kaldheim. That's my favorite of her card. I think that's Kaya the Inexorable. It's just really fun, and the art's gorgeous. That's all I need.
I don't know
Alex?
a favorite planeswalker card, but my favorite planeswalker is Angrath. I just love, bro's just trying to get home to his kids. Like, let my boy see his children.
Bring Angrath
Father's
home.
right.
Bring him home.
Bring Angrath home.
Kaya's just cool mechanically, man.
Well, I guess my favorite I have a list of favorite planeswalkers. On the lore side, I'd probably say like Liliana or Vraska or Jace. But in terms of like Planeswalker card, there's Sarah the Benevolent, there's Liliana Dreadhorde General, there's Vraska the Unseen. There's so many Planeswalkers that I love. Jace, I'd say Jace the Mind Sculptor is probably my favorite
card.
favorite Planeswalker card because it's just like when I was getting into Magic, that was like the boogeyman, the big card. You flip through someone's binder and be like, oh, he has Jace the Mind Sculptor, dude. This guy plays the game, you know? And then I do have my own Jace the Mind Sculptor now. So
Hell yeah. And you, Al?
My favorite Planeswalker is Elspeth, but very honorable mention to Saheeli. She's doesn't have her spark anymore, but she was a Planeswalker at one time.
Does Kaya have her spark? Wait a minute, I don't know this.
I don't know.
I believe so.
Shit, you say that's your favorite? Whoa, fake fan. My bad.
Favorite card, but maybe.
I don't care if Angrath has his spark. I'd rather him have his children.
Anyways.
All right, well, that's all we have for you today. Thank you for tuning into the Turn Zero podcast hosted by Snapkeep, and we hope that every hand of yours is a Snapkeep.
And ours.
Bye-bye. Planeswalkers are good.
They're pretty good.